Good afternoon. This is Tom Brazy, and this is going to be a quick walkthrough of one of the accessory programs for the goaltender program from Marzano Research. First of all, let's look at the context of this program. In the goaltender program, we have a number of selected assessments. These are the assessments the teacher is focusing on in the current term. And for each of these assessments, if we look down in the corner here in the lower left, we see the assessment details, and these assessment details, each of these is a specific assessment that has measured the skill that we're looking at, reading for details in this case. So all of these things down here are specific assessments of reading for details. It seems as if when we look at this that there's going to be a great deal of entry. If we're giving a test, we'll either have to give a lot of small tests or some larger tests that can be taken apart, and each piece of the test then goes with one of these goals. So that's kind of the context. In order to get these grades into the gradebook, which could take a typical teacher with 5 assistants just short of an infinity of time, it seems, we can put some technology to work for us. One of the tools in the goaltender is a spreadsheet. Now this spreadsheet you build yourself. You can make it look like whatever you want. It's just a set of rows, and each row corresponds to one student. You can look at this in the friendly student-centered view. Let me pick a couple of goals here to look at here. Doesn't matter. I'll build a table out of whatever goals I've selected. I can add a couple more and build that one. So I have a table that can expand to be whatever rows and columns I would like. Now at the top here we see a short name for this. On the import view we see the more technical name for each of these assessments, and down the side on the import view we see the student numbers. Now in order to import something, we import it in the form which you're most familiar with, in the form of what looks like an Excel spreadsheet. The Excel spreadsheet looks just like the spreadsheet we're looking at. It has students down the side with specific student numbers and goal numbers across the top. And of course, if you take a single student and go across and find a specific goal, goal E37 for student 1153, that uniquely identifies one assessment for one student, and the computer can then import that goal into the table. Once it's in the table, it's just as if you've entered that by hand. So this becomes a tool for importing scores into the gradebook. So here is the import tool, and one of the import things is paste by ID. So all I would have to do if I had such a thing was to get the table, highlight it like that, get all the rows and columns, however many there are, copy it, and then go back to the program and make sure that my student IDs were correct and that my goal IDs were correct, and then simply go into the program and paste, and it would go down the row and find the student, go across and find the goal, and put the score in. I don't have anything ready to paste right now. I haven't done anything like this yet. So anyway, going on, what it seems to cry out for is some specific tools. Now this page was imagined with the idea that perhaps a teacher might give multiple part tests where each student had, say, questions 1 through 10 measured this goal, and 11 through 20 measured this goal, and so forth. Each section of the test would measure one of the different assessment items. Or perhaps you would use this kind of a spreadsheet to import scores from a writing rubric, where you would have the 6 trait model of writing, and you'd have 6 columns across here, and you would have each student, then as you scored their paper, then you would fill in the rubric, and it would import the rubric could then be summarized and imported using this page right here. So this tool here is the tool for importing scores into the gradebook, into the goaltender gradebook. When we're done, we would then have for each student, say here is Darren Bates, and here is his academic speech, understanding speech goal, and then here are all the assessments, and these could each have been imported as part of a larger table and making the life a little bit easier. So that's the context for this tool. Now, to that end, I had some experience with a competition, an academic competition called the World Scholars Cup, that got me interested in taking an image, such as you might get from an ordinary scanner, and getting the data that you've filled in sort of in the Scantron style. I'm sure that's a trademarked expression, but it's one that everyone knows. It's a trade name for the bubble sheets. And so now let's look at my take on doing bubble sheets. Okay, here we have a few of the bubble sheets that this CatScan program you're going to see in a minute has created. You can see this one looks like an ordinary Scantron. It has about 50 questions. Up at the top is an input area for typing in the student ID, and then you can scan these in with a sheet-fed scanner. These are on the market typically between $250 and $350, and they should last years, but basically they'll feed these things in very rapidly. Here's a two-column test. Here we have about 100 questions, again a student ID across the top, and this could be a multiple section major test. Okay, so 100 you can go to. This is the one that we were almost like the one we were using for the World Scholars Cup, except it was 2 or 3 pages. So each student had 2 or 3 pages on their answer sheet, and we scanned them all in and graded them all together. Next we have a type of thing here that is here it says length measurement, but let's look at this. Let me zoom in on this a little bit here. I want to pull this up in my graphic editor. This is paint.net. Basically it's a graphic viewer. If it ever gets going here. There we go. Let me resize it so we can fit it on the screen. Okay, there we go. Alright, so on this particular sheet you'll see that we have something kind of interesting. At the top we have a bar, and this barcode is the assignment, shall we say the assessment item that we're looking at. All of the scores on this paper are for one single thing. For example, you might have a goal for your class to pass a quiz on length measurement, and so you've given that a series of quizzes on length measurement, and each time you do, you get a grade for each student, and you've decided to score this on the 4-point Marzano scale, criterion scale, and then as you go down this sheet, then you just bubble these in. Now, to know what person goes with each one, there's actually a bar, what do we call it? A scan bar, a barcode. Excuse me, a barcode here for each student, and this barcode has encrypted the student number. So then on this row, then I get the student number here, read across, and I get their score on that test. And so this then allows you to record the entire class for one quick assignment. And this could be very flexible. Because of the barcodes, though, you do have to print these out ahead of time. You would have to prepare a barcode sheet, print it out, and then when you're done, scan it in. What's the advantage? Well, you can walk around the classroom with a clipboard and fill these in. If you're in a PE class, you can walk around on one skill and have a couple of these, one above the other, and mark a student off for their long jump and one for their vertical jump, and you could then measure fitness goals on this thing, and you could just have those on a clipboard and then go at the end of the period, run them through your scanner, and copy and paste them into your gradebook, and you're done. Very rapid entry of scores. Entry of scores into the gradebook can be very tedious. You have to navigate within the gradebook down to the row where the student's name is, and then you have to find that student score and fill it in. It's really quite tedious, and this takes care of it because it has the student number and their score for one assignment. Okay, let's look at the next one. This next one, we have the ability in this CatScan program you're going to see to create these things. And once again, I'll pop this open and look at it in a text editor. And this is a rubric, very standard looking rubric with a couple of minor exceptions. This takes the idea of barcodes again. Here we have the barcode for what the form is, and then we have a barcode for the assessment. I believe that's an assessment number. So there's only one barcode on the whole thing, and you can read it. It's written real small underneath there if you look closely at it. You can see the barcode number 3456 or whatever that is. I'm sorry, this is the student number. This is the student 1012. This is the form number. The computer keeps track of the margins and how many columns and rows there are and some of those kinds of things. And then there's a series of bars, locator bars down the side and across the top. And so then what you do here is you take one sheet per student. Here the student is Eleanor Cooper, and you simply bubble in her scores for this. This would be a biology lab or something. And then the rubric is very standard, and you can assign the numbers of 1, 2, 3, or 4 to the scores here on the rubric. And then what you're getting here then are 5 scores for one student. Now when you scan a batch of these in after an assignment, essentially this separates out the structure of her lab write-up, the organization of the lab write-up, and you can look at those as individual skills, and this will keep each one as a separate goal for things that you would like to work on during the course of the year. And of course the student sees this kind of a rubric printed out prior to working on their lab write-up, and so they're knowing what you're going to be looking for, and you can be working on the common goal. So you're sharing your objectives with the student, and this gives you a rapid way to not only import but to summarize the scores on the rubric. And we have I have a couple of examples of rubrics, nothing too dynamic here. Here's a second rubric you can see. This one, oh, that's the same one again. Sorry about that. Let's pick one of these. Is this different? We hope. Nope, it's still the biology worksheet. I thought I did a couple of them. You can basically have maybe up to 7 or 8 columns and 7 or 8 rows, and you can fill in your own text. There's a tool in there to let you paste for example, a Word document paste or a Excel spreadsheet paste into the rubric, or you can type them in, either way. So then we have several tools for importing the scores into the gradebook. Okay, and we've been working on this CatScan program kind of simultaneously with the other. So here's a quick look at the CatScan program itself, the one that does all the scanning. Basically, you don't have the control of the scanner within the program. Typically, scanners that run a bunch of sheets through at once, somewhere in the setup you just tell it where you want to put the scanned images, and it puts them all there. So this then assumes that you've grabbed your pile of import forms, whether they're rubrics or Scantron style sheets or assignment sheets for the whole class like we're looking at here, and you've scanned those in, and they're in a folder, and let's say that folder is here. Okay, so now we're looking here at this biology length measurement, and let's make sure we pick one of the right ones here. I think that's the right one, and let me clear out my results so you can kind of see what's going on here. Save that. Let's try scanning this in. Now this takes this image and scans it if we're lucky, and I didn't do a test ahead of time. Oh, it worked. So here's student 5011, grade 2.5, grade, and so forth. So this scanned the scores in off of that sheet, and then you can get over here to let me save them, and then you can compile those and pick, let's see, that was length measurement, and there are the results. And you can have those in a student ID section period, or you can have those in an export table where you just have the identifier for the assessment that you're doing and the student ID. And we can have several of these on here at once. We could do an area measurement and a length measurement and have 2 of those. Maybe we don't have any scores for that, but this will create a table that has a whole bunch of rubrics on it all at the same time. Okay, so that is an example of scanning these in, and basically this program does the reading for you. So all you do is fill in the Scantron form and read it in. Let's look at one more here. Let's look at the large answer sheet here, and this one is like this maybe. That looks like the right one. Again, we've got a blank here, and it's going to analyze this image with it as we scan it in. we should adjust this to make sure that we can find the locator squares, which tend to move around a little bit depending on margins and some of those things. This tool allows you to find the locator squares, and then the program keeps track of what forms are in what format, and it takes care of the rest. So then we should be able to hit the scan button and see some results come in here. There they are. If we zoom in a little bit, we can see that our first scores are C, D, A, B, C. C, D, A, B, C, and whoops, this is page 1. We have an error here of some kind. Not sure what happened. Oh, I bet you, is this the same one? $5.11. Don't know. Well, anyway, it'll read it. It'll read them in, and I think it switched to a different image there when I was done with it. So I may have switched it to a different image. Let's go back and try one more here. That one. Let's see if I can read that one in. Okay. 5012. EBC, EBCCE, yeah, EBCCE. So we look down here and we see that it actually read the import form. I think I switched to a different image on the previous one. Okay, so that is our grader, and you can then mass produce the grading of the tests. Of course, it's not going to do essay tests all that well, so you may still have to do some reading. But then, of course, the essay test you can create yourself. Prior to the essay test, you can create yourself a rubric, and here's the rubric builder. The rubric builder, you just say how many rows you're going to have, how many columns are you going to have, what size font, and you can look at this vary here as we set these different controls. You can make the fonts bigger and smaller. You can set the margins, which is the spacing within the form. You can give it a title. Let's see, lab rubric headers. Criteria is the first column, and then below average, average, good, and wow. And then the structures are in this table down here. We have the structure, organization, content, and this is just an editable table down here. If we make this, we should have this so that it resizes vertically, but you can then see the text that's been pasted into the table, and then this text can be printed out on the rubric, and you can put the points in 1, 2, 3, 4. That's this number here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the IDs show up out here in the barcodes, and underneath the IDs are the names that go with them. So down the side we get the local ID and the name, and across the row you get the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you get the words underneath those in this table. Now you can sometimes find these exact things in online, and you can find your rubrics and build them, or you can build them yourself. And there's a lot of rubrics floating around out there, and once you get them built, you can save them within this structure and keep them from one year to the next. They'll stay within the CatScan programs database. Okay, so that is the quick look at the CatScan program. The idea of the CatScan program is to scan in your scores, get them into a table format such as a spreadsheet here, and then that spreadsheet format style can be pasted into the gradebook using the input scores form. Okay, so that's a little demo of our CatScan device. Thanks for your time, and hope you enjoyed this short video.